Some of us actually start as pros, but many of us begin the first steps in Blitz as some bloody noobs, and some never get beyond that. Let's dig into what exactly makes a good player and what your next step might be to get there. If we are looking at a typical 40% player, they are still struggling a lot with basically everything. But the main thing that comes to my mind there is they struggle with the mechanics of the game. They struggle to aim, they struggle with ammunition choices, angling their tank, and all that kind of stuff that is just very, very basic. Also, what I figured out there is that people of that level just have completely wrong settings. And that's what I would like you to start with. If you're still on that level, then get into your settings and make sure to adjust them so that everything feels comfortable. Mainly the sensitivity settings. Adjust them low enough so that you can aim accurately, but high enough so that you can still look around. Also for all the other buttons, doesn't matter whether you're on PC or touch, you need to adjust them in a way so that you can reach them comfortably. Practice this a little bit, but eventually this should be part of your muscle memory. Coming to the movement here, I often see that people don't really know how to use their tank even. But the essential is to just side scrape, just only showing the side of your tank, or getting hull down, which works with literally every tank. Which means you don't show much of your tank, only that little part that is needed to show your gun and see the enemy for shooting them. Once you learn that, I can also highly recommend getting used to driving around and shooting. You don't want to be distracted by moving around, and if it comes to aiming, you pre-aim the enemy, and once seeing them, you quickly aim in, shoot and zoom out immediately so you keep the overview over your tank. Getting closer to the 50% win rate, most people actually do know these mechanics. They do know how to aim, how to angle and all that kind of stuff, but they are driving around pretty randomly. They don't have the best overview of what to do, when to do. They just get to some random position and they don't know about the good spots. And I think that's the main issue here. They are lacking the knowledge about good positions for every kind of map, and that's what I would recommend to you guys if you're still there, to just look at some streamers like myself or any other top level streamer, so you can copy some positions and learn what is a good starting point to build your game up on. The next big milestone is the 60% win rate for many of us. I myself have grinded hard for that win rate. At that point, aiming and angling really doesn't matter too much anymore. It's just a side skill already, you're focusing more on where to go. The 60% player understood that killing the mediums is a little bit better for winning the game, so many of the 60% players are just going for the medium side in many situations, and they will also win in most fights against the opponent right to the front. But that does not apply every single time, so the biggest weakness to the 60% player is that they are not used to adjusting to this situation. They are only having one idea of what to do on every single map, and are not going for something else if the situation does not allow for their plan. So what I recommend to you guys, make sure to pay attention to your teammates. See every single game as an entirely new one, with new opportunities and new situations that require specific solutions to each problem. You want to adjust your position a lot more than what you're doing already. It often also means going with the team to the supposedly worst side. That, by the way, is also some skill that I learned in tournaments, where I figured out, man, the maps are huge and you can literally play anywhere, as long as you pay attention to what your teammates are doing as well. Getting to the 70% win rate. Here people are almost shooting blindfoldedly, they are driving around flawlessly. That's no issue at all anymore, they can outplay most of the enemies. They are getting into some good positions and they are driving away from these positions if they are not having any advantage. So the main strength here is that they know when they have an advantage and when they don't. So they fall back if needed and get to some completely different spot on the map. Also, what I think is the main strength of the 70% is staying alive. They know that they have to retreat from bad situations over and over again, and they will run away a lot. And that's not a bad thing. Because if your teammates are dying, then you should be gone already. You don't want to die with them, you want to still stay in the game for as long as possible and farm some last damage. The enemies will often do some mistakes, so you can punish that and still win the game together with your last remaining teammates then, or even in a 1v3. Also, the 70% is really maximizing the damage output. He's not playing in a 1v1 anymore, he's playing 1 versus 7 basically, seeing that there are multiple enemies things around and constantly shooting one or the other target, making sure to really be efficient in the game. But also the 70% is not at the top yet. The 70% often still lacks some situational awareness, meaning to see what exactly is going on all the way around you. I really had to force myself, being at that level, to really constantly look around. What I recommend there for starters is to just play a tank that is a little bit slower and have some longer reload. And every 20 seconds, every 2 shots, you want to look around, want to see what is going on, where you can be more effective potentially. Doing so will elevate us even beyond the 70%, closer to the 80% even. But the 80% itself is only reserved to the very top, at least when playing solo, while the 70% in platoon might still reach the 80% quite easily. If you're getting to the 80% win rate, well, let's be honest, most of you probably don't, but if you want to get to the 80%, you need to be avoiding every single mistype. You want to be aware where your teammates are falling, support them if necessary, but still run away then. You want to be able to not only stay alive, but mainly find every single opportunity that could potentially lead to a win. Even if that means rotating from one side to the entirely different side. If there is an opponent that is isolated, then the 80% player will find that opportunity and will go for it. Also, the 80% has really figured out how to be aggressive and when to be aggressive. Basically, he is putting in the maximum aggression possible for the entirety of the game, from the very start to the very end. How I often like to call this, first in the game, last one out. That should be the goal in Blitz. And what does this 80% have to work on? Well, actually not much. The 80% is playing pretty much flawlessly. But still, if you are getting to the, let's say, above 70% win rate and also closer to 80%, even the best players in the game are not playing perfectly. There are still some mistakes here and there. And if you want to really max your stats, then it comes down to just a few mistakes, like a few shots not being aimed in carefully, or sometimes dying a little bit too early. That can be a left out damage potential of about 1000 or even 2000. And those little mistakes can then drastically decrease your stats already. You see, this is really getting tryhardy there. It's not for everyone, definitely. But just maybe it can still give you a good clue about what you have to improve on yourself. Also, by the way, there is something that every 80% knows by heart and does at the start of every single game. More about this you will see right there. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon on my next stream maybe.